Hi there everyone, my name's Dave West, I hope we're all doing well. So welcome back to the ultimate video test, and this evening I'm checking out the Oppo Find X3 Pro. So I've had a couple of months with this handset, slightly older I know, about 10 months old I believe. But being the OnePlus 9 Pro's sister from another mister, I thought it was well worth checking out because it is an excellent smartphone overall. Now, as with all ultimate video tests, I will leave all of the main camera specifications down in the description, and I'll just run through some of the high-level features throughout this video to help save you a bit of time. So we'll start off with the front-facing camera then, and this is a 32 megapixel fixed focus camera, and sadly this only shoots video at up to 1080p at 30 frames per second. Now it does have electronic image stabilization, as you can see, and records in stereo sound from its built-in microphones. Now, in addition to the standard video mode, you also get ultra steady mode on the selfie camera, which is pretty cool. Now, it is at the expense of a heavier crop, as you can see, but it's nice to have this option on the selfie camera. I will do a daytime test for this, but as it's a nice evening, I thought I would venture out and show you what this phone is capable of in lower light conditions. And finally, you also get portrait video mode with the selfie camera. So this works on both the selfie and the rear camera. And you can see you get this really heavy blur bokeh effect in the background. Now that can be adjusted, anything from 0 to 100% of bokeh, as it's called in the app. You can see as I move around here, the separation is pretty good, a little bit cutty-outy I think, but it's a pretty decent effect, and it'll be good to test this out in daylight conditions just to see how it looks. Alright, so round to the rear cameras now. So we're starting off with the ultra-wide angle camera. Now both this and the main camera are a Sony IMX766 lens, so they're both pretty much identical. The only difference being that the main lens has optical image stabilization and the ultra-wide lens doesn't. But apart from that, their characteristics are pretty much identical, so you get nice continuity in color when shooting photos. Now I'm starting off at 1080p at 30 frames per second, just to show you the base minimum resolution. And the image stabilization, in my eyes, it does much better in getting rid of the jitters that you can often see when shooting in low light conditions. You can see it's super dark off to this side of the camera, but if I flip to the main lens, you can see that things do brighten up considerably. Now the lens is picking up a lot of light reflection here. Now that is typical of most smartphone cameras, so it's not unique to the Oppo. But this is just to give you an idea of how things look at 1080p at 30 frames per second. You can use this 13 megapixel telephoto camera. Now this has 2x optical magnification, but in low light conditions you're just cropping off the main lens, because this is quite an old sensor. This is something which has been used, I think, since the OnePlus 7 Pro. And you can see that the focus does struggle a bit in lower light conditions. You can see there if I'm just walking along. Now you can also go up to 5x digital zoom, which still isn't bad considering this is 1080p at 30 frames per second. One thing to bear in mind is that the telephoto camera, when shooting in good, well-lit conditions, can only do up to 4K 30, whereas the others can do up to 4K 60. Alright, so here's 4K at 30 frames per second then from the ultra-wide camera. So if you're watching on a larger display, hopefully you'll see the benefit of the better resolution. Although you may have the pixel peep, it is dark. But I think at 30 frames per second, even in these darker conditions, the video from the ultra wide angle lens is actually pretty usable. Color accuracy is good, so these yellow lines of the bus stop in front of me are rendered nice and accurately, not too oversaturated or not too faded. Now, extreme dark areas, you can see like the roof of this cottage in front of me here completely blacked off, whereas if I move to the standard lens, you can just about see it. A bit crushed in the shadows, but you can see it better. And the same with this memorial hall in front of me here. With the ultra-wide lens, it's barely viewable, but with the main lens you can actually see it. You can even see a cheeky little star up in the sky there. But there is a mode which I can show you in a moment, which will actually reveal pretty much all of the stars. So out into a more well-lit area, and you can see that is really impressive, I've got to be honest. And you can see some floaties there into the lens now as cars are passing with their headlamps. And go to the ultra-wide camera, and you can see slightly darker but still usable. Alright, so 60 frames per second then at 4K, so slightly darker but still almost usable video. And one thing I've noticed is at 4K at 60 you can't toggle between the lenses. You've got to stop recording and then reselect the lens and then start recording again. Alright, so here's the main lens at 4K 60. Slightly better now than the ultra wide angle camera. I noticed that you get much more light to each corner of the image rather than with the ultra wide lens, where because of the distortion effect from the lens you kind of get this vignette effect around the edges of the display, which makes areas in those corners seem really, really dark. Now this isn't perfect, but I will say it is quite true to life to what I'm seeing. So you know, with smartphones you don't want to sort of bump it up and make nighttime look like daytime, but that is 4K at 60 from the main lens. And you can see no stutters or jitters, just nice smooth lifelike 4K video. In addition to those other modes, you also get ultra steady video, and this just uses the ultra wide camera, drops in a bit, and then you get this super steady 1080p video. Now I didn't expect the video characteristics. Now the bitrate is actually quite low. It tops out around about 12 to 13 megabits per second, which isn't brilliant, but if you do need ultra steady video, then this helps you to achieve that. Now there's also another mode as well, and that's called Ultra Steady Pro. Now this is even steadier again, and again bitrate wise is around about between 10 and 13 megabits per second. Now this would be better to check out in daylight conditions, but just for the purpose of completeness I wanted to show you how it looks in nighttime as well, in case this is something you'd want to use. Just going to check out autofocus at nighttime, and get a nice smooth gradual lock onto your subject. It's nice and fast as well and accurate, and you still get nice details as well on your subject, which is pretty cool. You see it just adjusts really nice and smooth with no trouble whatsoever. Alright, so I just wanted to show you the portrait video effect using the rear camera. And again, just like the front facing camera, you can select different bokeh levels. So this is at 60%, just to give you an idea. And this just gives you a nice sort of portrait effect on your subject, to give you that nice super blurred background. So can't wait to test this out in the daytime. The OnePlus was really good, which is from the same family or manufacturer, and I don't expect this to be any less impressive. Alright, so one last video mode I wanted to show you before I wrap up the video is the AI video mode. Now this is just standard 4K at 30 frames per second, and if I move the camera around slightly you can just about see the stars up in the distance. However, if I stop recording and switch on AI night video, whilst by no means perfect, you get a much clearer vision of those stars up ahead. Now it is extremely dark, so this mode won't make up for the sensor shortcomings. It is a small sensor, so it's not dragging in a huge amount of light, but you can see the stars up ahead. You can even make out the star formations as well, which is really cool. And the moon is about tonight. Now that's not ideal, it's quite yellowish as well, so the white balance is a little bit off. But if I move around to the street ahead, you can see basically just bumping up the exposure, shadows, highlights, everything. It's just someone's fallen on the slider and just pushed everything to the max. But you still get electronic stabilization in this mode, and you can see everything is like much brighter than the standard mode, and you get like light to every corner of the viewfinder. Now it is quite grainy, I've noticed, especially in the sky area. And this is just to give you an idea of how it looks with the AI night video option on. And this is how the AI ultra night video looks on the ultra wide camera. Alright, so that's the ending of the Oppo Find X3 Pro Ultimate video test. I think it's a really excellent smartphone, and it's really surprised me with its really good cameras. Actually, I was quite surprised how good they were. But you let me know what you think down in the comments, and I will get back to you as soon as possible. And don't forget, if you're new around here, then please do consider subscribing so you don't miss more videos coming like this on the channel very soon. But for now, this has been my ultimate video test for the Oppo Find X3 Pro in low light conditions. My name is Dave West, and I'll catch you guys later.